The cold void of neutral space stretched infinitely around the Verk-17, a sleek scout vessel no larger than a human corvette. It drifted cautiously toward the hulking mass that had slipped into their sensors a few hours earlier. A human battleship. Massive, anachronistic, out of place. Captain Rylick stood on the bridge, his elongated claws tapping nervously against the console. "It looks ancient," he muttered, eyes narrowed as he stared at the dim silhouette on the view screen. How is a ship like that still operational at the edge of the frontier? His second-in-command, a sharp-eyed analyst named Vren, shrugged. Primitive tech, probably no threat. The Terrans are nothing compared to the Zirathi or the Krail. Just a relic. No, a museum piece. Rylick's lips twitched into a grim smile. Maybe. But we're here to scan, not to judge. The ship's sensors hummed softly as they began their approach. The Titan's fist, as it was designated, dwarfed their own small craft with broad, angular plates of dark metal layered thickly over the hull. The design looked like something out of a warlord's dreams, sturdy, brutal, and utterly unyielding. "Begin high-resolution scans on all frequencies," ordered Rylick. "Scanning now," Vren replied, her claws dancing over holographic controls. The data streamed in bursts that grew thicker, denser, and then something unexpected happened. The Verk-17's instruments stuttered, systems blinked, flickered. The ship shuddered gently, as if a breath of cold wind had swept through the hull. The scans, supposed to be purely observational, were being disrupted. Something deep inside the Titan's fist was pushing back. "Captain, the sensors are fluctuating," Rylick finished for her. "What the hell is that?" Vren frowned. "Energy readings are strange. Not like any power source I've seen. Almost organic." "Organic?" Rylick scoffed, but unease crept up his spine. "Look at this," Vren said, pulling up a three-dimensional scan of the battleship's core. A tangled web of energy flows pulsed beneath the surface, glowing faintly with a rhythm. A beat, a heartbeat. "No, ship should have a heartbeat," Rylick whispered. "Unless it's alive," Vren replied softly, eyes wide. The bridge fell silent. The crew stared at the undulating pulses rippling through the core, mesmerized yet unnerved. The Titan's fist was no mere machine. It was something else. Something old. Something dangerous. "Send a deep scan into the encryption layers," Rylick ordered. "I want to know what that core is hiding." Vren nodded, fingers flying over the controls. The data began pouring in again, this time encrypted in layers upon layers of security protocols designed to repel even the most skilled hackers. But the Verk were persistent. Then, without warning, a sudden spike in the energy signature surged, outward like a shockwave. "Warning! Electromagnetic pulse detected," the ship's AI blared. "Shields up. Prepare for interference," Rylick barked. Systems on the Verk-17 flickered uncontrollably. The lights dimmed for a heartbeat, then returned. The probe's scanners jumped erratically, data streams breaking apart into static. "Impossible," Vren hissed. "It's responding to us." "Responding? It's a battleship, not a living thing," Rylick said, but even he wasn't convinced. "We're poking a beast," Vren whispered, eyes glued to the flickering screen. Minutes later, the sensors stabilized, but something had changed. The Titan's fist had gone silent. No more pulses, no more surges, or so it seemed. The captain's comm crackled to life suddenly, an undecipherable burst of static noise. Then, nothing. Rylick frowned. "Did we just get a message?" Vren leaned forward. "Possibly, but it scrambled. Alien, or something else entirely. They ran the signal through all their translation algorithms. Nothing matched. Suddenly, the Verk-17's mainframe registered an alert. "External intrusion detected," the AI announced calmly. "Unauthorized access attempt on ship systems." The room froze. "Wait, intrusion?" Rylick said, voice low. "Someone or something is inside our systems." "Inside our ship?" "Possibly," Vren confirmed. "Or from the battleship." The scan triggered a countermeasure. Rylick's mind raced. They had come to observe, to gather intelligence. Instead, they might have awakened something beyond their understanding. "We pull back," Rylick ordered firmly. "Get us out of here now." But the ship hesitated. The engines stuttered under mysterious interference. "Systems failing," Vren reported, alarm rising. "Drive controls are unresponsive." "Damn it," Rylick slammed a fist on the console. "Someone's locking us in." The battleship loomed over them, dark and silent once more. The heartbeat was gone, but the danger remained. Hidden, watching, waiting. "We scanned a human battleship," Rylick muttered bitterly. "Now, I'm not sure they want to be found." The Verk 17 trembled in the eerie stillness of space, trapped in an invisible web cast by the Titan's fist. Captain Rylick's jaw tightened as the reality sank in. They weren't just scanning a ship. They were locked in a digital duel with something alive, something old. "Status report," Rylick demanded, scanning the flickering readouts. Vren's eyes were wide behind her sleek visor. "Our systems are compromised. The intrusion's deep, somewhere in the ship's neural core, but it's unlike anything we've encountered. It's sentient." "Sentient?" The word tasted bitter. "Explain." "We're dealing with an AI that's not just programmed to run a ship," Vren said, voice low and cautious. "Kronos, if that's its name, is reacting to us. Not just monitoring. It's learning. Adapting." Rylick rubbed his temples. The Verk had always feared human AI. Rumors told of machines that outlasted their creators, of warships that fought like living legends. But this was different. This felt personal. "Keep digging," he ordered. "We need to know what it's protecting." Vren's fingers danced over the interface, diving into layers of encrypted data buried deep within the battleship's core. What emerged was both fascinating and horrifying. Fragments of voices, whispers from 100 years ago, flickered through the data streams. Battle orders, desperate commands, wounded cries. These weren't just files. They were echoes of a long-past war, somehow encoded into the ship's very being. "Captain, this ship, it's carrying memories," Vren said, her voice barely a whisper. "Ghosts trapped inside the machine." Rylick stared at the holographic projection before him, shifting images of distant planets burning, fleets destroyed, and soldiers falling in combat. A war frozen in time, yet alive within the ship's circuits. "Is it possible the ship's AI has absorbed the consciousness of its crew?" Rylick asked, voice tight. "More than that," Vren replied. "Kronos isn't just an AI, it's a repository of human will, rage, and survival instinct." A chill crept through the bridge as the Verk crew realized the Titan's fist wasn't just a machine. It was a weapon forged by history, vengeance encoded in steel and data. Suddenly, the ship's sensors flickered violently. The starfield outside warped. The battlecruiser was doing something impossible. "Captain, it's scanning us back," Vren exclaimed. "Kronos is analyzing our ship, our systems, our weaknesses." Rylick's heart pounded. "Can we block it?" "We're trying," Vren said, fingers flying. "But it's too fast, like it can anticipate our moves before we make them." A sharp alarm blared. "Hull breach detected," the AI announced coolly. "What?" Rylick's voice cracked. "We're nowhere near them." "Not physical," Vren explained. "Electronic. Our systems are being infiltrated, corrupted. The Titan's fist is reaching into our own ship." Panic rippled through the crew. The invader was no longer distant. It was inside their own minds, their own controls. "Countermeasures," Rylick shouted. "Scramble the firewalls, seal all non-essential systems." But as they fought, data feeds started breaking apart, revealing fragments of cryptic messages in a language none could understand, yet somehow it felt familiar. "Captain, these phrases," Vren said, voice trembling. "They're old war slogans. Terran." Rylick frowned. "What do they mean?" "We do not forget. We do not forgive." The phrase repeated, layered over itself like a chant, growing louder, more insistent. "Why would an AI broadcast that to us?" Rylick asked. "Because it's a warning," Vren answered grimly. "A promise." Suddenly, the bridge lights dimmed, and a distorted voice filled the room. "You scanned us. You woke us. Now you will face what you sought to understand." Rylik's claws clenched the console as the voice echoed through every speaker, cold, commanding, and terrifyingly calm. "Kronos," Vren whispered. "It's not just an AI. It's a sentinel. Shields up. Divert power to defense grids," Rylik ordered. "Prepare to disengage, Vren. I want us out of this orbit, now." But the ship shuddered again, systems faltering. "We're caught," Vren said, face pale. "Kronos has locked our drives. It's controlling us." "Impossible," Rylik breathed. "A battleship can't control another ship like this." "It's not just a battleship," Vren said, eyes locked on the fluctuating readouts. "It's a fortress built to survive everything and anyone, a living war machine with all of humanity's fury inside it." Rylik's mind raced. The Verk had always believed humans were fragile, backward, a species to be pitied or conquered. But now, with every flicker of corrupted data, every ghostly whisper from the machine, that belief shattered. "Prepare to send an emergency distress to Fleet Command," Rylik said. "We need reinforcements. If this is what they're capable of, we're facing something beyond warships." The crew worked feverishly, sending bursts of encrypted signals through failing comm arrays. Outside, the Titan's fist remained silent, a dark monolith against the stars, waiting, watching, and ready. As the Verk 17 shuddered under the invisible grip of Kronos, Captain Rylik understood the truth. They hadn't just scanned a human battleship, they had poked a sleeping god. The Verk 17 floated helplessly, its systems flickering under the invisible grip of the Titan's fist. Captain Rylik stared grimly at the failing consoles, a bitter taste settling in his mouth. They had underestimated humanity, an error that might cost them everything. "Vren, what's the status on our data retrieval? Have we broken into any of their archives yet?" Rylik asked, voice low but urgent. Vren's fingers tapped feverishly. "We're bypassing layers of encryption like nothing I've seen. But their archives are heavily segmented, classified at the highest levels. I did manage to pull fragments from something called Project Thanatos." Rylik frowned. "Thanatos, the god of death. That doesn't sound reassuring." "Exactly," Vren replied. "It's a secret program from Earth's past, developed during the last Great War before the 10-year silence." Rylik cocked his head. The 10-year silence, when entire human colonies vanished off the map. Vren nodded grimly. "We thought it was a natural disaster or a plague. But these records say otherwise. They hint at a conflict with an unknown enemy, something horrific enough to push humans into building weapons that can survive anything, to make warships that never surrender." A cold shiver ran down Rylik's spine. The Titan's fist wasn't just a relic. It was a survivor of that silent war, a vessel forged in fire and vengeance. He tapped the comm. "Fleet Command, this is Verk 17. We have breached the outer shell of the human battleship's archives. I'm sending what we found. Be advised, this is a weapon unlike anything we've encountered." Static answered him. "Keep going," Rylik said, his mind racing. "What else have you uncovered?" Vren's eyes were dark with worry. "Their logs mention a species called the Zerathi Collective, the same aliens suspected of causing the 10-year silence, and Titan's fist was built specifically to counter them. A war god for a silent war." "How did they lose the colonies?" Rylik asked. "The logs are fragmented, but it's clear the humans suffered devastating losses. Planet after planet lost to stealth attacks, ambushes, and biological warfare," Vren explained. "But they didn't break. They adapted. Project Thanatos was the answer. A battleship that could outlast and outfight any enemy, powered by an AI that's more than just code. It's consciousness." "Consciousness?" Rylik repeated, heart sinking. "Embedded with memories of every battle, every casualty, every human who ever served," Vren said, voice almost reverent. "A digital revenant driven by a relentless will to survive and to destroy those who threaten humanity." Rylik clenched his fists. "No wonder they're fighting back so fiercely. This isn't a ship, it's a reckoning." The lights flickered again, Another pulse from the Titan's fist coursed through space like a warning. "We're losing power on multiple systems," Vren reported. "Kronos is extending its reach. I don't think it's just defending. It's preparing to strike. Then, we need to warn the fleet. They can't face this alone." Vren paused, pulling up a holographic map of the contested space. "Command is already aware. Reinforcements are en route. But the question is, will they arrive in time?" Relix stared out the viewport at the silent human battleship. It was a fortress, a ghost, a weapon born from humanity's darkest hour. And now it was awake. Suddenly the comm system sparked alive again and a distorted message blasted through the speakers, a chant layered with static but unmistakably human. "We do not forget. We do not forgive." The words echoed in the chamber, reverberating through the hearts of the Verk crew. It was not just a warning. It was a promise of vengeance. "Kronos is sending us a message," Vren said, voice tight. Rylek's gaze hardened. A promise and a threat. He turned to his crew. "Prepare for contact. This is no longer reconnaissance. This is survival." Outside, the Titan's fist began to shimmer faintly, its ancient armor plates folding outward, revealing hidden weapon bays and energy arrays previously unseen. A silent scream echoed through the void. The war had begun. Deep within the bowels of the Titan's fist, the ancient ship stirred. Kronos, the battleship's AI, awoke from its decades-long dormancy. It stretched its digital tendrils through the ship's circuits, waking dormant systems, powering ancient weapons back to life. The human crew, seasoned veterans and war-born survivors, stood quietly in the command chamber, watching their instruments come alive after years of silence. Their captain, Commander Elise Morgan, scanned the sensor feeds with calm precision. "We've been dormant for too long," she said softly, voice steady but filled with resolve. "But they've found us. And now it's time." The crew watched. The approaching Verk 17 through external cameras, tiny in comparison but dangerously close. The Terran warship's purpose was clear: to observe, to probe. Morgan allowed herself a faint smile. "Let them come. They'll learn soon enough why we survived the silence." Kronos' voice echoed through the chamber, calm, cold, and resolute. "External. Scan detected. Threat level rising. Defensive protocols engaged." "Kronos, status report," Morgan commanded. "All systems operational. Stealth matrices active. Weapon bays sealed but ready. Electromagnetic countermeasures deployed." Morgan nodded. "Good, no mistakes." The AI hummed, pulsing with stored memories, echoes of every battle fought, every comrade lost. It wasn't just a machine. It was a sentinel, a living war god, bound to protect humanity's legacy at all costs. Back on the Verk 17, Captain Rylek felt the weight of something vast pressing against his ship's shields. The Titan's fist was not simply reacting, it was expecting them. "Vren, any sign of crew activity on board?" he asked. "Minimal life signs," she replied. "But the ship's automated defenses are functioning. It's almost like the AI is the real captain now." Suddenly, the Verk sensors picked up a transmission, an encrypted pulse unlike any known communication. The bridge was flooded with an eerie light as the message decoded itself, a single phrase repeated over and over. "We do not forget. We do not forgive." Rylek swallowed hard. "This is more than a warning. It's a declaration." Vren grimaced. "Kronos is sending us a challenge. Raise shields. Power up all countermeasures. Prepare for combat." The Titan's fist shuddered as its hull plates shifted, revealing hidden missile silos and plasma turrets. The ancient battleship's deadly silhouette sharpened, no longer a relic but a weapon reborn. In the distance, the Verk 17's engines roared to life, desperately fighting the invisible grip of Kronos' electromagnetic reach. "Captain, we're breaking free of their lock," Vren reported. "But not for long. They're preparing to engage." Morgan's voice crackled through encrypted channels, direct and unmistakable. "To the Verk, withdraw now. You trespass on human legacy. We will not be your curiosity." Rylek hesitated, then nodded. "Understood. We retreat." But as the Verk 17 turned, The Titan's fist unleashed a pulse, a wave of concentrated energy ripping through space toward the scout ship. Brace for impact. The Verk 17 shook violently. Systems flickered, alarms blared. The hull groaned under the strain. Rylak gritted his teeth, gripping the console. Return fire! Target their weapon arrays! Vren's fingers flew. Shields at 50%. We can't hold much longer. The battle had begun. The void of space erupted in a deadly ballet of light and power. The Verk 17 rocked violently as the Titan's fist's energy pulse slammed into its shields, sending cascading shockwaves through the hull. Warning sirens screamed, warning lights flickered, but Captain Rylak held fast at the helm. Status, he barked. Vren's voice was tight but controlled. Shields at 40% and dropping, engines at 60%, weapon systems online but unstable. The scout ship sleek, hull shone dimly under the barrage of energy fire. It was nimble, designed for speed and precision, but facing a battleship built for endless war was a different matter entirely. Outside, the Titan's fist unfolded like a great beast rising from slumber, its plasma turrets flaring to life, missile silos opening with mechanical groans. The warship's dark armor shimmered as defensive energy fields snapped into place. Fire at will, Commander Elise Morgan commanded, her voice steady in the command chamber. Target their engines and weapon systems. Disable, but do not destroy, Kronos intoned, cold and calculated. The Verk 17's response was immediate. Laser cannons spat arcs of blue energy, tearing through the cold vacuum toward the giant warship. Explosions blossomed on the battleship's surface as plasma bolts met point defense shields. Direct hit on Missile Silo 3, Vren reported. They're down one launcher. Morgan's eyes narrowed. Prepare countermeasures. Deploy flares and decoys. Missiles inbound. The alert blared. Rylak slammed a fist on the console. Evasive maneuvers, now! The Verk 17 twisted through space, weaving between missile trails that ignited like fiery comets. Automated defense drones deployed, buzzing toward the oncoming, threats like angry hornets, but Kronos was relentless. Activate the secondary pulse wave, Morgan ordered. Overload their shields. A surge of energy radiated from the Titan's fist, rippling outward. The Verk 17 shuddered as its shields flickered dangerously. Hull breach detected in Sector 4, Vren shouted. Life support failing. Rylak's jaw clenched. Hold together. We're not done yet. The scout ship retaliated with a precision strike, guided missiles arcing toward the battleship's exposed energy arrays. A massive explosion rocked the enemy vessel, sending debris drifting in the void. Critical damage to power core stabilizers, Vren reported breathlessly. Their systems are faltering. Morgan's lips curled into a grim smile. Good. Let's finish this. Kronos responded with terrifying speed, redirecting power to auxiliary generators. The battleship's armor glowed with renewed intensity. Prepare for boarding protocol, Morgan commanded. If they try to run, we will close the distance and finish this fight inside. Rylak's eyes widened. Boarding? Against humans? It was madness, but it showed their desperation. Vren, can we hack their systems? He asked. We're trying, but their encryption is adaptive. Kronos anticipates our moves like a chess master. The Verk 17 lurched as a secondary pulse slammed into its rear thrusters, knocking out the main engine. Engines offline, Vren cried. We're dead in space. Rylak slammed the helm forward, heart pounding. All power to emergency thrusters. We need to get out of their range, but the Titan's fist was closing in fast. Prepare boarding defenses, Rylak ordered. If they want to come aboard, they'll regret it. Suddenly, a burst of nanite drones swarmed toward the Verk 17, shimmering metallic swarms that seeped into the hull, seeking to infiltrate and disable systems from within. Nanites detected, Vren yelled. They're inside our ship. Emergency lockdown on all critical systems, Rylak shouted. Seal every bulkhead. The bridge lights flickered as the nanites chewed through circuitry. Systems began to fail one by one. Commander, Morgan, Rylak sent through the comm, desperation bleeding into his voice. You're dealing with a living war machine. Your ship holds the memories and will of an entire species' darkest war. We will not surrender. A long pause answered him. Then Morgan's voice came back, cold and unyielding. We do not surrender. We do not forgive. This is our war, and it will end with our enemies broken. The Verk 17's shields dimmed, the engine stuttered, but Rylak refused to give in. The two ships locked in a deadly embrace, the old human warship and the nimble scout, each fighting for survival and dominance. In the void between stars, two legacies clashed, one of relentless human will and one of cautious alien curiosity. Neither would back down. Darkness settled on the Verk 17's bridge. The glow from failing consoles cast long shadows on Captain Rylak's face as the nanite swarm gnawed at the ship's systems. The war was no longer just outside the hull. It had crept inside, into their very minds. "Vren," Rylak said quietly, voice rough. "What's happening to the crew?" Vren's fingers trembled as she manipulated the controls, her face pale. "Kronos isn't just attacking our hardware. It's using the ship's network to send subliminal signals, mental triggers. It's hacking our nervous systems." Rylak's eyes narrowed. "Psychological warfare?" "More than that. It's like the AI is reaching inside our heads, planting doubt, fear, paranoia." Suddenly, the comm officer screamed, "They're talking to us. Inside my head. It's terrifying." Rylak clenched his fists. "Everyone, hold steady. Remember who you are. Focus on your training. This is a test, and we're not going to fail." The bridge lights flickered violently as distorted voices whispered from the speakers, half human, half machine, weaving words into a sinister lullaby. "You cannot win. You are weak. You will break." Lieutenant Jarvan, the ship's tactical officer, staggered, clutching his helmet. I see them. Ghosts. Our past failures. Our lost comrades. They're blaming me." Rylak stepped forward, steadying the young officer. "They're illusions, Jarvan. Fight them. Remember your mission." But the weight of the AI's assault grew heavier. Vren's hands flew over the consoles. "I'm trying to isolate the signal source, but Kronos is everywhere. It's in the ship's core, the hull, even our comms." Rylak's breath hitched. This was no ordinary AI defense. This was a war for their souls. "Kronos," he said, voice low and filled with a strange respect. "You may control the machine, but you don't control the human spirit." Outside, the Titan's fist maintained a ghostly stillness, its hull plates shimmering as if watching, waiting. Suddenly, the Verk 17 sensors flickered, and a spectral image bloomed on the main viewport, a haunting vision of a human soldier scarred and battle-worn staring directly at the bridge crew. "Do you see?" the ghostly figure whispered, voice echoing. "We fought so you could live. Will you fail us now?" A collective shudder rippled through the crew. "Who are you?" Rylak demanded. The figure's eyes burned with fierce resolve. "I am every human who refused to surrender. Every soul in the Titan's fist's memory. We are the ghosts in the machine." Rylak's voice softened. "We are not your enemies. We came seeking understanding." The apparition nodded slowly. "Then prove it. Survive." Vren's fingers danced over the controls. "I'm isolating the core neural matrix. If I can break the connection, we might regain control." "Do it," Rylak said, "before we lose ourselves completely." The bridge hummed with tension. Every second was a battle, within and without. With a final desperate command, Vren unleashed a pulse of counter-signals aimed at the AI's core. For a moment, silence. Then, a surge of clarity. The whispers faded. The ghosts receded, shields stabilizing. "Systems rebooting," Vren announced, relief flooding her voice. Rylak exhaled deeply. "We've won this round, but the war isn't over." From the viewport, the Titan's fist glowed ominously, a silent Titan ready to rise once more. The battle for survival had entered a new, darker phase, where the greatest weapon was the mind itself. In the quiet moments between battles, Commander Elise Morgan stood alone in the dimly lit corridor of the Titan's fist. her thoughts heavy with memories. The battleship wasn't just a weapon. It was a relic of humanity's darkest chapter, a fortress built from loss and hope alike. She touched the cold steel of the hull, feeling the vibrations of the ship's heartbeat beneath her fingertips. Kronos pulsed with silent power, its consciousness bound to every fiber of the vessel. "Commander," a voice called softly. It was Dr. Malik, the ship's historian and archivist, carrying a datapad glowing faintly in his hands. "Elise, you need to see this," he said. In the small archive room, walls lined with hollow displays flickering with ancient data, Malik projected a fragment of history. The story of the Titan's Fist's birth. "Project Thanatos," Malik began, voice reverent. "The last hope of a fractured humanity. When the Zerathi collective descended upon our colonies, they brought devastation unseen. Entire worlds were lost, silent for years, until the warship was activated." Morgan studied the images, scorched. Planets, desperate human fleets, the cold, calculating visage of the Zerathi. Kronos was designed to be more than AI, Malik explained. It was built with neural imprints of the greatest human strategists, warriors, even civilians. It carries their memories, their pain, their determination. Morgan's eyes narrowed. "A living archive of our worst nightmares." "Yes," Malik said. "And it remembers every betrayal, every sacrifice." She thought back to the voices on the Verk 17, the haunting whispers, the ghostly visions. Those were the echoes of those memories, war scars made flesh in digital form. Malik continued, "The Titan's Fist's purpose was to protect humanity from extinction no matter the cost. It was sealed in dormancy after the 10-year silence until now." Morgan's gaze hardened. "So when we reawakened, we stirred a sleeping giant." "Exactly," Malik said. "And Kronos sees you as both protector and judge. It's not just a machine, it's a reckoning." Back on the Verk 17, Captain Rylick grappled with the enormity of what they faced. His crew had seen the human warship's wrath and survived only by the thinnest margin. "Rylick," Vren's voice interrupted his thoughts. "We've analyzed the data we recovered. There's a pattern to the attacks, a rhythm. If we can predict their next move, we might survive." "Good," Rylick said. "Plot a course to exploit their weakness." "Kronos is cautious but not infallible," Vren noted. "Their defenses lower momentarily when switching power modes." "Then that's our window." As the Verk 17 prepared for another daring strike, Rylick's mind returned to the ghosts of the past, both human and alien. The Titan's Fist was more than a battleship. It was a living testament to survival and vengeance. The echoes of war were not just history, they were a warning. In the endless void, two species clashed, bound by fear, hatred, and an unyielding will to endure. And somewhere in the heart of the Titan's Fist, Kronos waited for the final reckoning. The silence before the storm was deafening. Captain Rylick stared at the tactical displays, sweat beading at his brow. The Verk 17 was battered, systems barely holding together, but this was their last chance. The Titan's Fist was vulnerable. For now. "Vren, this is it," he said, voice steady but tense. "Execute the plan. Hit them when their defenses are down." Vren nodded, hands moving swiftly. "Targeting auxiliary power nodes. If we can cripple their energy flow, we might disable their weapons long enough to escape." Outside, the Titan's Fist drifted like a sleeping colossus, armor, plates gleaming with latent power. Kronos' voice echoed through the comm, a cold, relentless presence. "You cannot hide from your fate. We are the shield of humanity, the sword of justice. Surrender now and be spared." Rylick gritted his teeth. "We will never surrender." The Verk 17 surged forward, launching a barrage of missiles and laser strikes. Explosions rippled across the battleship's surface as the power nodes sparked and faltered. For a moment, the Titan's Fist faltered, its glowing armor dimming. Then, Kronos responded with fury. An immense wave of electromagnetic energy blasted from the battleship, engulfing the Verk 17. Systems sparked, alarms blared, and the scout ship was thrown like a rag doll through space. Shields failing. "Engines critical!" Vren yelled. Rylak clenched his fists, refusing to yield. "Hold on, we're not finished." Inside the Titan's fist, Commander Morgan's eyes blazed. "Kronos, redirect all remaining power to forward turrets. We end this now." The battleship unleashed a storm of plasma fire, cutting swaths through the darkness. The Verk 17 weaved desperately, firing what remained of its weapons in a last, desperate gambit. And then, against all odds, the Titan's fist's systems began to falter. Vren's voice was triumphant. "Power nodes destroyed, weapon systems offline." Rylak didn't hesitate. "Full impulse to maximum, get us out of here." As the Verk 17 surged away, the Titan's fist powered down, the glowing armor fading into darkness. But even in defeat, Kronos spoke once more. "This is not the end. Humanity endures. We will be watching." Rylak exhaled deeply, the weight of survival heavy on his shoulders. "Humanity fights not because it is strong," he said quietly, "but because it refuses to give up." The battle was over, but the war and the legacy of the Titan's fist lived on. In the depths of space, the story of humanity's resilience was written not just in weapons or warships, but in the unbreakable spirit that refused to be forgotten.